everyone. Today we are going to be recording for you a little bit of an extended version of what we've been talking about on our social media lately, and that is something called dry thrush. Ticket might think this is a kind of a boring situation, but she's also been through the ringer these last couple of days while we're treating this. Also known as desert thrush. It really is a myth. We usually associate thrush with wet and muddy conditions and such like that. The fact is, where I live, we have been in an extreme drought all summer and as we head into fall, and what we've realized and recognized in most of the horses on the property is that they are all suffering from deep, dry thrush. So come along with us as we dig a little bit deeper into how to find it in your horse and then how to treat it as well. So I have Ticket here with me. This is a hoof I already cleaned out. I have cleaned out this hoof and trimmed it in the last week now twice, but you can see today I've kind of gone in here again and cleaned out her sole. This is not something that I recommend for anybody who isn't experienced with doing your own horse trimming. Trimming the frog and trimming the sole is something for experienced personnel only, but to recognize when the sole is really compacted is super important. So I'm going to bring you in here and kind of walk you through a couple of things. So I've already cleaned this hoof out. I trimmed this hoof just literally a couple of days ago, and it doesn't look like I did anything, and she's in need of a trim again. Her toe is long, and the reason for that is because she has compacted so much sole in here. I already did this about 3 days ago, and now I have just cleaned it out again to an extreme level. You can see she has a trouble and is susceptible to thrush because she actually has a wonderful heel on her, and it's deep central succulus and deep grooves in between her frog here. So I'm gonna go, you've seen what her other hoof looks like now that I've started to clean it out. I didn't pare it down a whole lot because I just want to encourage the sole to start shedding itself. So I'm just kind of starting to take off what is flaky and dry here, and that will come off really easily. I'm not gonna go digging around in there. I do not usually trim frogs or the sole because the horse does it for the most part. But again, so the reason and one thing that's different about dry thrush and why it can happen is that moisture helps the horse shed their sole and their frog, and they do need a level of moisture in their hooves. And what has happened now all summer with no moisture is that the sole has not shed, and it has packed layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And what that creates is what looks like false sole. So it looks like you're trimming to the sole level, but what it really is maybe several centimeters of packed sole that hasn't shed yet. And what happens, because it's not true sole, is what we call false sole. What it happens then is that moisture, when you do maybe get a little rain, seeps inside that false sole there and creates the bacteria underneath it. Likes to live in the frog and in the crevices because that's the easiest place for it to go. So that is why dry thrush is a thing and how it happens. So especially as we move into fall, when we have the dew on the grass in the mornings and things like that, that little bit of moisture has been creeping in her feet. And what has happened, lo and behold, is that thrush has crept up on me. Organized. Okay, so what I did is I went in there just a little bit more off camera because I was gonna be huffing and puffing and I can't sometimes talk when I had to dig in there. But now we have this really messy looking foot. However, a pretty foot always concerns me because we need to trim and work with the foot with what it's presenting us. So this has now been what I would call exfoliated, and now I'm going to let the rest of the dry skin, if you want to, for lack of better terms, flake off. So this has actually opened up a whole much more surface area and a lot much more breathability in these areas beside the frog here that we're going to continue. I'm going to show you how we're doing soaking, what we're using, and a tool that you can use instead of a knife to kind of start to exfoliate your horse's sole yourself. Here's a photo comparison of the trim job I did just 3 days before compared to what it looks like after I pared out even more sole. A messy foot is a productive foot at some times, so even though it looks ugly, it is going to be functional. Everything that you need to complete a successful soak and treatment of your horse's hooves. The Desitin, which contains zinc. You need apple cider vinegar mixed with 50% water and a Bioplex copper. Here is the fashion statement that your horse is going to make using some Ziploc bags, the apple cider vinegar, and duct tape. So you want to take your ACV and water mix and soak your horse's feet for up to 30 minutes. Then you want to put some copper and mix it in the Desitin and wait for your horse's feet to dry and then apply that to the frogs and collateral grooves. When we're looking or assessing for dry thrush, again, those cracks in the sole are a really good indicator that the horse has false or packed sole in their foot. If you're not sure, a great place to start is soaking the hoof. The next place we want to be concerned about is a really deep central sulcus and a really hard frog, combined with those dark black areas down the sides of the frog as well, are indicators that you might have dry thrush. Here's another example of a foot that looks like they're trimmed flush to sole level, but those cracks indicate a lot of sole that needs to come out of that foot. And we have a very ouchy frog with many layers packed into there and a very deep central sulcus that needs treatment. So I talked to you guys while we were down under about using a knife or being very careful with that until you're very experienced. However, we do carry this tool, which is an Evo Evolutionary Hoof Care bar and sole rasp, which it does make the job absolutely a little bit more difficult, but it can help you start to exfoliate that sole and that bar area, especially if you maybe get some moisture in the morning or you do get a little bit of rain and you start to notice some cracks in your horse's sole, is usually an indicator that that is false sole that has appeared and begin to compact on the solar level of your horse's hoof. So you can go in there and start to rasp away at the solar level of your horse and start to kind of, it might take you a couple days and you might go over it a couple of times, but this is a tool that is horse owner approved and hard to do a lot of damage with, especially if you're new. You're probably going to err on the side of caution anyway, so you can pick these up on our website to help you on your journey of tackling dry thrush.